I've got a challenging question for you. How many times a day do you use your phone? Well, one US study suggests we spend an average of almost 3 hours a day looking at our screens. For many people, checking their phone while at dinner, watching a movie or seeing a gig has become quite normal. But an increasing number of performers are banning phones. They say it's not on, they don't like their show being interrupted by people looking at their phones, and they're using a piece of technology developed by a US company called Yondr. Every phone is put in a lockable pouch. Have a look at it. It's kept by the owner, but they can't see the screen or even access the device. And after the show, the pouch is unlocked. The comedian Chris Rock has made the pouch compulsory at his shows. A few hours without a phone doesn't sound so bad, does it? But how did it go down with audience members at Saturday night's gig here in London? It's such an interesting idea. We sent our reporter Lucy Martin along to the show to see how it went. And let's also take you to New York. We're joined by the founder of Yondr, Graham Degoni, who is there for us. But let's start with you, Lucy. How was it?
Well, Lucy, it felt like a really interesting social experiment. The fact that you couldn't have phones at this show was quite widely advertised at the time of booking and also on people's physical paper tickets. But despite that, people still seemed quite flustered and taken aback that they were going to have to hand their phone over into this pouch and not be able to check it. Now, I waited in line to get into the venue and spoke to lots of people and observed the crowd, and this little pouch was dominating the conversation. I spoke to one young woman who said she felt really disappointed she couldn't take the phone in because her friends would be expecting updates on Snapchat and social media. And as we got closer to the front of the line, people sort of started doing last-minute selfies and almost getting a little bit panicked. But I should say there were other members of the crowd that really seemed, quite bemused by it all. And one group of young girls that I spoke to were actually almost bargaining with the staff, saying, "Look, we'll turn it off, we'll put it in our pockets, but just we want to keep our phones." So yeah, it was interesting. And inside the gig itself, the biggest thing was the darkness. Usually you would see an ocean of light, but it was only the stage.
It's such an interesting experience and one we're not used to at the moment. And is that part of the issue, Graham? Have we simply forgotten to live without our phones attached to us at every moment of the day?
Oh, thanks for having me. I mean, yeah, in a nutshell, I'd say it's that. I mean, the big question maybe is a human with a phone in their pocket kind of a fundamentally different type of being? And maybe that's a question we're all wrestling with. And so the idea of phone-free space is of allowing a space in between you and your phone where you can kind of experience something different is definitely something we think is worth exploring.
So do you think, Graham, that technology's become a bit of a barrier then, or a real barrier to our experiences, rather than enriching our experiences?
Well, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's, in a lot of ways, technology is a path of least resistance. So when people text each other or something like that, I think it's just kind of easier, and we have to ask ourselves when something new comes along like a phone, what does it displace? And if that is social interaction, if it's being swept up into a shared mood, is that something that we need to kind of protect and allow the long form to exist? Is something eroded when we try to kind of take a shortcut?
Lucy, did you notice sort of people talking to each other more, or that there was more interaction at the concert because people didn't have their phone?
I think one of the most interesting things was that during the short break, the intermission in the show, usually people would turn to their phones, especially if you're on your own or maybe your friend has gone to the bar to get a drink. It's a bit of a social crutch. So without it, I did notice that, I wouldn't say that people maybe made best friends with the person in the seat next to them, but I certainly noticed people looking around, just chatting. Instead, you would normally see people with their neck craned over. That wasn't the case.
And Graham, do you see this being used in other places, or is it starting to be, just briefly, not just concerts, but like schools, courthouses and things as well?
Oh yeah, we actually do more in education than we do in the entertainment world. We do courthouses, weddings, kind of everything in between, but education has been really big. I mean, from what we've seen, especially in the US, smartphones in the classroom are kind of the #1 issue.
Indeed, they are here too. Graham, good to have you with us. You too, Lucy. Thanks so much for joining us. An interesting idea, locking away your phone the next time you go to a concert.